Hey everyone, Treasure here again, your instructor for the 3D animation course in Blender. In this lesson, I'll be sharing some simple tricks on how to make your animation better. So, let's get started. This is a bonus video on the animation chapter of the 3D animation crash course in Blender. I wasn't exactly sure where to fit this in the main practical tutorial, especially because I didn't want to overwhelm you as a beginner coming into animation. But I feel this is going to be very, very important, especially if you want to make your animation look smoother. If you look at these three cubes that are moving, this original cube over here, it has just 2 keyframes. This is how we animated in the tutorial, and this is how you spend your time animating, which is just having 2 keyframes, your start and your end keyframe. However, you might not have noticed it yet, but it doesn't really feel lively that much, which is why there is need to add an additional keyframe. This is a modified cube. It's the exact same motion, but with a few attachments to make it feel alive, and this is those attachments being exaggerated. So this is all 3 of them playing together. So let us create this and explain what exactly is going on here, and why these other 2 animations feel smoother than this one over here. All right, so let's make a new file. All right, we've already established earlier in the chapter that animation is change over time and change is recorded with keyframes. So we have just 2 major keyframes, which is your start keyframe, which is where you want the object to start before the change happens. So to do that, we'll create a keyframe over here, give it location, rotation, scale keyframe at the start, and then at the end of the animation, we create, and let's say at frame 50, we create an end keyframe. So we want it to move on the y-axis, G on the y. All right, so then we add another keyframe there, and your animation is done, basically. So let's put the end of this keyframe in 50, of this timeline in 50. So that is all it takes to do animation. Just have your start keyframe and your end keyframe, and the computer does the rest. However, as you continue to progress in your journey, you might continue to ask yourself, why doesn't my animation feel smooth enough? So to make this movement feel more organic, we're going to need to apply some principles of animation to it. There are 12 principles in general, but I don't want to overload you with all of them. If you want to know more, you can Google that. But out of those 12 principles, 2 in particular can literally change any of your animation and make it feel more alive. And those 2 are the law of anticipation and the law of overshoot. So anticipation and overshoot are types of keyframes that you can insert in between your start keyframe and your end keyframe to make your animation feel alive. What is an anticipation keyframe? So anticipation keyframe, the purpose of the anticipation keyframe is to show the object preparing for action before it takes action. So the physics behind this is that if an object that is moving on its own, not an object that is being remotely controlled by something else, an object that is moving on its own, for it to move, it needs to generate momentum, and to generate that momentum, it needs to move in the opposite direction. So if you were to jump, you won't just suddenly lift off from the ground into the air. You first need to charge up energy, to charge up momentum for you to lift up, for you to push yourself up from the ground and jump to the air. Since you are going up, you need to go down, which is the opposite direction, before you can lift yourself up. So that is what you need to do in order for you to create anticipation keyframe. So you have your start keyframe where the object is, and you have your end keyframe where the object wants to go. Then after the start keyframe, you have the anticipation keyframe, whereby you move the object in the opposite direction of where it wants to go before it can move towards the end keyframe. So very quickly, let's show that in action. The way I personally do anticipation keyframes, I'm going to take this start keyframe. I'm going to press Ctrl. I'm going to right click. You can press Ctrl C or right click, copy it, then go probably a few frames ahead, and then you can Ctrl V or paste it. And now I'm going to paste it. So now it looks as if nothing is happening here. But what I'm going to do in this keyframe over here is that since our object is moving this direction, and just move it slightly on the y-axis here in the opposite direction, and insert location and rotation. So this is just how to make it move. So now it doesn't really feel organic yet, and that is because we've not added an overshoot keyframes. So the physics behind an overshoot keyframe is that before an object gets to its desired position, it will usually miss its location, it usually overextend past its location before it comes back and settles on its desired location. So a live example you can do right now where you are is that if you have your hand, your fist, try and pretend to slam your fist in the air. Don't slam it on the table like just in the air as if you are trying to shake it, but you just do it once. Just slam your fist in the air. You will notice that, and then try and stop it. So try and slam your fist in the air, but before it reaches the table, try and stop it. You will notice that your arm doesn't just stop automatically in the location you want it to stop. It will bend a bit downwards a bit before it will settle back. It's pretty fast, but you get the point. It will bend before it settles back in where it's supposed to be. So that is what overshoot is. Overshoot is simply your object overextending past its desired end keyframe. So if the object was supposed to move like 10 units in your start keyframe, at your start keyframe is going to be at unit 1, and by your end keyframe is going to be at unit 10, or let's just say kilometer 10. Your overshoot keyframe will be that object moving towards kilometer 11, and before it will settle back and go back to kilometer 10. That's how an overshoot keyframe works. So if we want to put that in our animation here, how I do it is that I take the end keyframe, I copy it again using Ctrl+C or copy, then I paste it somewhere around here. And now in this end keyframe, this middle here, I'm going to push it further than its intended direction, move it slightly, and insert keyframe, come here. Maybe the anticipation was also too much as well. Ctrl+V, move it slightly away a little bit. Okay, insert keyframe, and now it feels a lot more organic. So now your object feels smoother. So, so let's make a duplicate of now. So your object feels a lot smoother. So this, let's just for seeing how it looks, just try and delete first. Delete these keyframes, selecting them and deleting them. And this is how it looked before. This is how it looks now. So it's not really that notable yet. You might need to tweak the location of it, but just remember that if your movement feels too robotic, maybe you are trying to animate something that should feel organic, you can make that thing feel more organic by adding an anticipation keyframe after the start keyframe, whereby it goes in the opposite direction before it goes in the direction it wants to go, the opposite direction of where it's supposed to go at the end keyframe. And then you add an overshoot keyframe, whereby the object overextends past the location or the direction it was supposed to be at the end keyframe. It will overextend past that before it returns back to the position, the end keyframe position where it was supposed to be. So if the object was supposed to move 10 meters by the end keyframe, in the start frame, you have the object at 1 meter. At the end frame, you have the object positioned at the 10-meter mark. The anticipation frame, you have the object positioned at maybe -2 meters or -1 meter. Then in the overshoot frame, which is just before the end keyframe, you have the object move to maybe 11 meters or 12 meters. Then by the end keyframe, it will go back to 10 meters. So it just overextends a little bit. This is like a very mini touch. Again, it's just a bonus video to make your animation just look smoother or more organic. If you can add these touches, your animation can feel a lot smoother. So if you want more information on some things to make your animation smoother, I highly advise you check out the 12 rules of animation. There are many resources online for you to learn that and apply it to your work. But in the meantime, these two will suffice you and help you to create really organic looking animations in Blender.
And that's all for our lesson.
I hope you learned some tricks on how to make your animation a lot better. In our next lesson, we're going to go into modeling. So be sure to check that out. And for this, like and subscribe, share, and if you have any questions about this lesson, be sure to leave them in the comment section and I'll be sure to attend to them. So, have fun.
Enjoy all these premium courses in this channel for free.